Hello, 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 everyone. It's Dr. Tamara Beckford, and welcome to the Dr. Tamara Beckford Show. All right, so I am excited today. We are talking about career changes to entrepreneurship. Now, a lot of times we go into medicine and we feel as if, like, that is it. Like, okay, has the road finished? And we're here to let you know, no, that is not the end of the road. There's so many avenues that you can branch off using your medical degree, using your training, using that mindset that you've learned from medical school, that hard work, that dedication that you have learned how to sit and grind through those exams, using all of those skill sets to do things that really empower you and you feel that you can use to enrich the world. That's what we're talking about today. Alrighty. So it's going to be fun. And I have a wonderful guest here with us. So this wonderful guest of ours, she's a graduate of the UTMB Galveston. So that's the University of Texas, the medical branch in Galveston. We're talking about all our people down here in the Texas area where it is hot. And summer decided that it's going to forego spring, but that's okay. From that, she did a stint of general surgery there in Dartmouth. So she was like, you know what, it's hot in Texas. I'm going up north. And so she went up north. But hey, she's from the DC area, so she understands how it is being on the East Coast. She's currently using her skills in utilization management. She is a mentor, a public speaker, and an entrepreneur. She's also a rising author because she has an upcoming book that is called the Overcomer Series children's book. With this, it goes well with her passion for encouraging others and working with people to help them reach their full potential. Who am I talking about? I'm talking about the one and only Dr. Ruth Obiarinze. Hello, 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 Dr. Ruth. How are you?
I'm doing really well, Dr. Beckford. Thank you for having me.
Hey, it is my pleasure. Alrighty, we're about to get down and get
Okay.
to know you a little bit better. Alrighty,
Right.
before we went into, we had Dr. Ruth with the MD going to the UTMB Galveston. We had just Ruth, right?
Yes.
Ruth,
Yeah.
that was it, little old Ruth. So
Oh, yeah.
tell me, little old Ruth, going back in the days, what made you decide to be a doctor in the first place? Go ahead and tell us that
Yeah.
story.
That's a great question. I've always had a very deep love for the sciences. So that
Mm-hmm.
was one. That was pretty much the foundation. But from there, I can honestly say that I have a deep desire to be there for somebody like when they're the most vulnerable. What
Mm-hmm.
other most vulnerable point to be there for someone when they're sick, when they're in the hospital, when they need great attention to medical care? So that was really where the desire came from.
Okay. So right there, you recognize at an early age that you really have the desire to help. And
Mhm.
you're trying to figure out of all the different ways that I can help someone, where can I have an impact that I feel that's the greatest? And you're like, when they're most vulnerable,
Correct.
which is when they're sick.
And
And so you said, you know what? I'm gonna be a doctor. I'm gonna
yep.
throw away my 20s. I don't need my 20s. I can sit in front of a book
Yes.
all day, every day, and take exams
Yeah.
and be asked questions.
Yeah. Studying all the time. It was definitely a grind looking back at it. I mean, you're
Hmm.
familiar too, but I'd feel like those years in my 20s, those were some shaping years because
Hmm.
that grind, it really teaches you who you are in
Absolutely.
difficult situations. And so,
Hmm.
yeah,
I
nothing
love
that I
it.
regret at all.
Ah, there we go. Alrighty. So, when you went into medicine, was there anyone else that was around you that consistently that you said, oh, yeah, I'm gonna be like that person, or, yeah, I would love to follow that other person's footsteps?
It's funny, there was nobody really that I idealized because I
Hmm.
am the first doctor in my family, but I would say that, Dr. Beckford, if I'm being completely honest, my
Hmm.
faith is a big driving factor in everything that I do.
Love it.
So it was always just this unrelentless, this persistent tenacity to study medicine. It was just like always in the back of my head, becoming a doctor, becoming a doctor, becoming a physician, and it just wouldn't go away. And not
Mm,
to get too off topic, but I would say maybe for any younger people that are listening, or anybody who's unsure about their calling, if you have this desire, this want, and for some reason it just doesn't go away, I would say that that is probably the direction that you need to be heading in for where you need
mhm.
to be. At least that's been my experience. I'm not sure about you.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So this driving force that's coming from either within or behind you, but no
Yeah,
matter what, it's as if it's navigating you internally towards this path. You try
yeah.
to deviate, but no matter what,
It's
it
very
still pulls you
persistent.
back.
Even when something happens, maybe, something disappointed happens, you fall
Mhm.
short in an area, you feel like, "Man, I don't wanna do that anymore," but for some reason, it's just always coming back, like, this is who you are, this is what you need to be doing, and so that has always led me to consistently stay with medicine.
I love it. Was there, when you entered into medical school, there are a lot of people that, I've interviewed a lot of our colleagues, and they go into med school and they said, I'm going to be a blank because I went into med school knowing that I'm going to be a, and they fill in the blank. Now, when they left, that's a different story. But when you entered into medical school, what specialty did you go in thinking, or did you have any in the first place?
Great question. Yeah. So it for me, it was always surgery from day
Mm.
one. And my classmates will tell you too, I was ride or die surgery. I was hands down. They would say Ruth is balls to the wall surgery, like she's the surgery girl. And that was true from day one after first year all the
Mhm,
way until the end. It
mhm,
was again, it was just something that I couldn't shake. I really wanted to do it. And I knew that it was going to be competitive, and I did have to do a little bit more extra things than some other people to get to where I needed to be, but I would
mhm.
say once I was there, the fruit on the other end, it was definitely worth it. So, yeah, that's how
I
I
love it.
started and that's how I finished.
Well, what about surgery that drove you to it, other than an internal passion? Because a lot of our colleagues that, when I ask about the different specialties, there's something internally that pulls them to it. Whether it's like, I like working with my hands, the dexterity skills, or, but what is it about surgery that pulled you and you was like, you know what? This is what I want to do.
Yeah, that's a great question. So all those things have always been true for me, the dexterity, the working with your hands, the instant gratification for saying
Mhm,
that I can see this problem with my eyes, I'm gonna go in and fix it right now and close it. But I think for me, I think what I always thought the coolest part about surgery was I don't think there's any other profession in medicine where somebody can say, I saw your gallbladder. I saw your heart pumping. And then I took out your gallbladder. This blood vessel was bleeding. So I had to stitch it up, or there was a tumor here. It was sitting here. It was this big. And then I removed it and took it out. Nobody else can
ah,
say,
you're
I saw
right.
your liver. I saw your heart. I saw your stomach. I just
Like
always
I held it
really
in my
cool.
hands.
Yeah, I was
Yes.
touching your heart, and then I put it back in your chest, and then I sewed you back up, and you're here now, and we're talking. I just always thought, again, it's just that idea of being somebody or around somebody, just like in a very vulnerable, sensitive time. I don't know. I guess
Mhm.
I'm just a really serious person, but the stuff like that has always intrigued me. I always thought that was pretty cool.
You're the first person that I've ever heard describe that portion of that drive. When you're thinking about it from the standpoint when you're like, I have held these
Yeah.
organs where we all say, you're right, of all our different specialties. Like for me, if I'm holding your organs, oh Lord, because I'm an ER doc, I should not be.
Yeah.
So something bad has happened.
Mhm.
Because if I'm holding and it's not going to be in a controlled setting like with Dr. Ruth and all of her
Yeah.
colleagues who are in surgery who have done that. Now, when we really think about that, the only other time I've ever sat and really absorbed all of this was during the time during pregnancy when I'm like, oh my gosh, I have two sets of hearts.
Yeah.
two sets of everything going
Yeah.
on right now. Like, whoa,
Yeah.
mind blown. Like, the
Yeah.
body is awesome. Like, how crazy is it that the body can do all of this, right?
Yeah.
Alrighty, so we did a stint in surgery, but then we also moved on to a different portion of medicine, which is called like utilization management. So
Yes.
tell us all about utilization management.
Yeah, so utilization management, basically, from what I'm doing, it's more so on the business side of
Mm-hmm,
medicine now. So
mm-hmm,
now we're using our medical knowledge to
mm-hmm,
look at cases for people
mm-hmm.
who are still in the hospital, and we're determining their level of care. If they
Ah,
still need to stay in the hospital, if they need to be discharged. So
mm-hmm.
that's basically what it is. And it's also a way too, from a medical standpoint, for the hospital to increase reimbursements that they get from the insurance company.
So now when we hear this from, the standpoint people are hearing, should they stay, should they leave? One of the avenues, the fact that you are a doctor yourself, you're seeing things from this perspective that's different than just the business person, right? So being able to use your medical skills, think about that. Like, how have you seen that have such an impact on the outcome of, like, the patients? Because there are times when you will have to step in and say, no, they're not ready yet. Or, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's okay.
I think the great thing about utilization management, though, is that it's all remote work. So it's
Mm-hmm,
no longer direct patient care. And
mm-hmm,
so we're lucky in the sense that we're not right there in the hospital to have to tell somebody you have to go home. It's
mm-hmm,
more of what we call peer to peer. So it's one physician on one end speaking to the other physician on the other end.
mm-hmm.
And really, it'll be the physician who's in the hospital, it'll be their responsibility to speak to the patient, to break the news to them about whether they have to leave or stay. So I guess they really get the end of the stick. My responsibility is a bit better.
Well, I wouldn't directly say they're getting the short end of the sticks because, like you said, they're getting a peer to peer objective standpoint, right? Now, it's
Yeah,
different when the physician is being told, like, hey, yeah, we got to cut this. They need to go
yeah,
home, versus when they're getting like the peer to peer looking at it, and, you're deciding and working together as a team.
true,
Right? Because you
true.
both understand the logistics of what goes on medically,
Mhm.
where you have the medical background, the physician has the medical background. Rest assured, there's someone that has a business background, but they don't have the medical background.
Correct. Yes,
So being able to use that peer to peer, it really helps in improving the outcome, which is the whole point of us doing medicine in the first place,
yep,
is to improve our patients' outcomes so that they can have great outcomes no matter where they are. Alrighty,
definitely.
so one of the things that happened to all of us, at least most of us, I mean, I've been through it, so you let me know if you've been through it, is burnout.
Mhm.
Have you ever been through burnout? And if so, what did it look like for you?
Yeah. I would say burnout is an interesting topic too, because
Hmm.
it can be sneaky sometimes. You don't know when it's
Yes.
coming up on you. And
Hmm.
so I would say for me, as I matured into academia and became more familiar with medicine, what burnout looked for me, what burnout looked like for me is that there was no longer a desire anymore to do the things
Hmm.
that I was doing. I didn't want to do the work anymore. The same
Hmm.
interests that I had were not there. Instead of being excited to go to the hospital, it was more of like a dread, like a boredom, like to go there, kinda like almost like I was dragging my feet. And I
Right.
think the biggest thing was a lack of concentration. I couldn't concentrate anymore.
Yes.
So those were like the biggest signs that I saw.
Absolutely. And what you're talking about is like a clear classic burnout wherein you're
Yeah.
having depletion, which is the emotional, the exhaustion. Like, I'm pretty sure you've had I made it to the hospital
Yeah.
and then I'm in the parking lot
Yeah.
and I'm motivating myself. You can do it.
Yeah.
Only either one more shift or one
Yeah.
more this. And you're trying to give yourself that motivation to get out of the car,
Yes.
to go into the
Yes.
hospital,
Yes.
right? And then you also have the portion where you are becoming, like, at times one can become cynical, depersonalizing, where we start to lose some of our humanness and our
Yeah.
personalness. And
Yeah.
then we also have the part, like we're saying, the decreased sense of accomplishment. Like,
Mhm.
oh, what's the use? Like, you're
Yeah.
not, like, you don't feel as like you're having any impact, which are
Correct.
some of the things that you're saying that, oh, and those are classic signs of
Yeah.
burnout. Now, the thing about it is that you were able to use some of these moments, and you've turned that around, and you're using that to now help others. And you
Yes.
have this wonderful book that's coming out that's showing others how even just a little itty bitty young person can use some of these strengths to
Correct.
overcome. And it's the Overcomers series, the children's book. Tell us how this came about. How did the inception of it come?
Yes, yes, yes. This is something that I'm very excited about that God has put on my heart. And so, really, Dr. Beckford, how it started, like I mentioned, um, I was working, I was still clinical,
Mm-hmm.
and I found that I was being transitioned
Mm-hmm.
to non-clinical medicine, what I'm doing now, which is utilization management. But it
Mm-hmm.
was very unexpected. It
Mm-hmm.
was something that I did not foresee happening at the time. I had worked very hard to get to where I was at that moment. Not only that, there was a lot of energy from my mentors,
Mm-hmm.
support, people speaking on my behalf to help me to get to where I was. So with all of that work that had happened, I was feeling like, man, I'm going to be here forever. I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to be doing this forever. But God had a different plan for me. He started redirecting me to what I'm doing now. It was unexpected, and
Mm-hmm.
I can't honestly say that I was ready for it at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But the lesson that I've learned now, and I think a lesson that a lot of us as physicians will learn, is that sometimes we may see our career going in a direction that we didn't foresee,
Mm-hmm.
and that can be normal. So I don't always think it's the fact that it's happened, but it's the fact that now that it has happened, what are you going to do with it? What are you going to
Absolutely.
do with this information? I've heard it said before that God can't do anything about what you've lost. He's always going to use what you have left. So if the
Mm-hmm.
situation was hard, that's okay. But what are you going to do now that the situation has happened? What have you learned from it, and what are you taking from it? And from that now has come the inception of the children's book series that I've
Mm-hmm.
made, which is the series is called the Overcomer series. The name of the first book is called Amara's Big Scary Race. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
children's book. It's an inspirational children's book for ages 5 to 9 years old. And
Mm-hmm.
this specific topic will be on perseverance. Amara has trained all summer long for a big race, but life is going to teach her an important lesson on perseverance. And again, it's what she makes with the situation that's left and how she moves forward, which is
Mm-hmm.
determining how she'll be an overcomer. I feel like that's the same for her. That's the same for all of us. And
Mm-hmm.
I know for me, the reason why I've decided to make it into a children's book is that I've realized I can't go back in the past to change
Mm-hmm.
anything that's happened. The past is gone. It's dead and
Absolutely.
gone. I have the future now. But what I
Mm-hmm.
can do is I can take the lesson that I've learned and I can plant a seed in the younger generation to those coming up behind us to prepare them for what life can have for them moving forward.
Absolutely, absolutely. And when you're saying that you're doing this from the standpoint of the children's series, there are ways that we can empower our younger ones, which are our children, to be able to uplift them into recognizing that these are some skill sets in overcoming challenges that happens, and challenges are going to happen
Oh,
throughout
yes,
our lives.
yes.
um, and that we build upon it, and we build this level of not only grit but
Oh,
perseverance,
yes,
that's important in life within itself.
yes,
Now, Amari is preparing for this race.
Yes.
Rest assured, we do want everyone to read the book. But what are some challenges that you say Amari overcomes that are similar to the challenges that we have adults are overcome? Because if we think about it, Sesame Street was made for the kids, but there were
Yes.
so many adults that
Oh,
love to
yeah.
watch it because
A
we
lot of
learned.
great life lessons.
Yes, absolutely. So go ahead and tell us about Amari's.
Yeah, Amara. And then so
Amara,
another thing
sorry.
that
I'm
it's
saying
okay.
Amari because I have a colleague, a friend whose kids name Amari. So that's dedicated to him. But
Okay.
Amara, go ahead and do
Yeah,
Amara.
Amara. So I think in the story, what Amara sees is that there's an incident that comes out of the blue, very unexpected.
Hmm.
So it halts something that she had worked on for at least a summer long. And I think just like her, that's like with us as adults. You're working hard for something, you're on that path for tenureship, you're going from assistant professor to associate professor, everything is great, and something just comes in the twinkle of an eye, very unexpected out of nowhere, and you
Hmm.
don't know where it came from, and then you may have to take a little bit of a detour.
Absolutely.
But it's about our attitude during that transition, and it's
Hmm.
about focusing our eyes on the goals ahead and moving forward. And I would also say too, as it's been said, life is not about the destination, it's about the journey.
Journey.
So even though something difficult has happened, it's about the lesson that God is about to teach us during that transition that we hold on to, that builds our character, and in Amara's situation, teaches her perseverance.
Oh, look at Amara. Look at Amara. Look at Amara providing guidance for us as adults through the
Yeah,
eyes of a child.
yeah,
And can you remember during the time as when we were younger, where we felt like the world is going to end because it did not, happen the way we wanted
yes.
it to happen. But yet here we are, bigger, stronger. And that's, I'm pretty sure, some of the lessons that Amara is going to learn through her journey as she prepares for this big race.
Exactly. And so it's something that I'm excited to share. It's set for ages 5 to 9 just because of the reading level, but I think that any child who
Hmm.
if their parent has a mind for them that they're working on something or that they have big goals and they want them to remember these lessons, I think that it would be fit for them. I think it would be a good lesson. I think another thing that I wanted to add too is that I'm a very proud second generation Nigerian American. My
Hmm.
parents were born in Nigeria, but I was born here in the US. The book
Hmm.
has some themes, not very overt, kind of hidden themes of the Nigerian culture in there as well too. Some
Hmm.
small hints of faith as well because I'm a believer, and so I'm excited to see if the audience is able to pick up on some of those things once they read.
Oh man, it's hidden. I was gonna ask, but we're gonna let the audience be able to pick it. It'll be a hidden gem, which
Yeah,
is
we'll
like
see if
get
they can
excited.
pick it up. There's some
Oh,
hints in the background I'm hoping that they'll be able to catch.
oh, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Alrighty, so now we're at this portion of our wonderful conversation where I usually like to find out from my guests what they would be. They weren't a doctor, and I'm gonna have to pull some stuff off of the list because this is how I do. All right. So to just give you an idea, I do have this utopia which is all in my mind of where my physician colleagues, we have built this utopia society and everyone is playing a part in the society.
Okay.
But I want to know what part you'd be playing because none of us are doctors there. We're all doing things like interior designing, some are doing photojournalists, some are doing floral arrangements, some are cafe owners, some are baking, but I'll see what would you be if you weren't doing utilization management, you weren't a surgeon, you weren't an author, and you weren't doing public speaking or mentoring? What would you be?
Besides all of those things,
No,
some
you can't be any of those things. So
okay, I
that's
can't
the
do any of
thing.
those things. Okay, so
Nope.
all of those are
So
off the
none of all of that's off the table. So now
okay.
what that's why all my doctors are doing things like their floral arrangements, just stuff that they love doing otherwise.
So I think in a perfect world, in like a fantasy world, if I could really be doing anything, I would be a fashion model. Because I
Ooh,
love beauty, makeup, getting dressed, getting my hair dressed, clothes. So just in a perfect world, carefree, I would be a fashion model.
I love it. So I had a fashion designer, which is Dr. Amaka Namandi,
Okay,
and so you can model all of her designs.
I'd
I
love
love
to talk
it.
to her. I would love to talk to her. That would be great.
Oh my goodness. I love it. I love it. I love it. Oh,
Yeah,
how wonderful.
yeah,
In my little society, I tell you, I always find people connected doing things in my utopia. Now,
yeah,
some people are here watching, they're listening, and they're hearing about Amara's big scary run. And the Overcome series that's going on.
yes.
And they've also learned a little bit about your journey. And they would love to connect with you. They'd love to find out where is this book that you're talking about? Or how can it be part of Dr. Ruth's world? Let us know. Where can they find you?
Yes. So just to follow me as a businesswoman, they can follow me on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
My name tag is OBI underscore the underscore MD. So OB, the MD underscores between the letters. And then to find more information out about the book has a Facebook page. It's called the Overcomer Series Children's Book. And
Mm-hmm.
so the book is going to be available on Amazon, and the link will be posted to Facebook and to my Instagram page within the next 24 hours. And so
Ooh.
then that link will lead to the pre-orders for
Mm-hmm.
the book to finally be released June 15th, Father's Day weekend.
Oh, wonderful. So this is like a prime time. So
Oh yeah.
pre-orders open up on June 1st.
Yes. So the
Oh.
pre-orders will open up if you follow me on my Instagram page, on the Facebook page for the group, the link will be there. You can
Mhm.
pre-order the book, and then it will be officially sent to the person Father's Day weekend. But I would really appreciate support from everyone, especially like I said, if you have a child and you know that you want to at least plant a seed for a life lesson to teach grit, tenacity, perseverance, overcoming. If you know your child is an overcomer, then I think that they would be blessed with this book. And I would encourage you to invest in something. You're investing in the book, you're investing in their future to have them be that overcomer that we know that they can be. So I would encourage them to get the book, to pre-order it, and when you
Mhm.
do that, you're investing in a Black physician, you're investing in Black business as well too. So just asking
Okay.
everyone to get the book. Yeah, I really think they would be blessed.
Oh, I love it. I love it. So we have Amara who is coming in strong in her big, scary race, overcoming obstacles that will teach her tenacity, grit, and perseverance, which are all part of what we have learned as adults. And she'll learn, and those who are reading this wonderful book will also, their kids will learn all of those additional skills. So, Dr. Ruth, thank you so much for stopping by the Dr. Tamar Beckford show. Thank you so much for telling us about your journey and, recognizing that putting this journey out there is going to be inspiration to others because so many are on paths and the paths get deviated. And it's just important, just like Amara, to recognize that because the path got deviated does not mean that this is the end. There's so many things
Exactly.
out there that one can do with all that's already within them, right?
Correct.
All the skills that's already there.
Exactly.
Now, we are gonna be out there, and like you said, you can find Dr. Obi at Dr. Ruth at OB_the_MD,
Correct.
correct? And that's on Instagram. And then the Overcomers
Yep.
Children's Book Series if you're on Facebook. Now, for those of you guys who are watching and you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't catch all of that, have no fear. This wonderful episode will be available on our Your Caring Docs website. That's URCARINGDOCS.com. Select podcast, you'll see Dr. Ruth's beautiful face. You click download, and then you can send it to 10 of your friends. right? Because you know that you do have friends who have kids who are going to benefit from this wonderful, wonderful book and the series. Now, if you are looking for a dynamic speaker to speak on stress management, burnout prevention for your next event, yeah, I am that person. Send me an email to drbeckford@yourcaringdots.com and we'll find a way how we can connect so that we can make your next event your best event, especially if you're doing it on stress management and burnout prevention. So thank you all for stopping by. Thank you so much. We had Dr. Rhoda who said hello. Thank you for hosting and thank you for sharing your journey, Dr. Ruth. So thank you guys for jumping on. Thank you, Dr. Ruth, for spending this time with us.
It was a
And with
pleasure.
this, we're going to part and say thank you all again. And I'll catch you guys next time. Bye bye.
Bye.